Welcome, race fans, back to SVR. My name is Webbo, here to join you today for the race as ever. And we are here for the S2 second round of our 2026 VR Sim Racing World Championship, the S2 division. And this is how the S2 Championship looks after, of course, that first round in Suzuka. Jailhouse Chris leads the championship ahead of Yank and Hobbit, with Nigel Mansnail, Scavvy and Nintendo also scoring well. Jogon Sim, so Grinch, Thump in 9th with AMAC and John P in 11th. We have Liquid Gecko and SenorDude having scored over the course of this first round of the championship. Here we are at Fuji, a fairly short journey for the race from Suzuka. We are having an all-Japanese first 3 rounds of our championship before then following essentially the F1 circuit around our remaining portions of the race. This then is how qualifying has set up. John P qualifying in 13th position, and Nintendo in 12th for Igala. Biggerwood is in 11th for our Cyan Racing Team colour scheme there. You can see in its beautiful arrangement. Then we have Nigel Mansnail for Bro Carga in P10 in the 81. Jogon Sim for Hector Motorsports is the lead Hector driver in P9, with YenkTheTank second in the championship, but only managing 8th position out there in a dark and gloomy looking Fuji. SenorDude is P7 for Team Mega. And Scavvy for the second of the Bro Cargas, qualifying in 6th place. Mo in 5th for Team Rosa, with Sir Grinch, in the Cyan Racing Team colour there. I just need to double check who I have managed to misplace there for the team earlier on. We've got, I'm not seeing our team position there. Who am I missing? I think that this is the official new Cyan Racing Team colour scheme. It certainly was what the S1 drivers were using, but looks like the driver at the back there not getting the memo today. But slightly a slightly changed colour scheme then for Team Cyan, with Jailhouse Chris qualifying in P3 for Team Mega. Thump looking to punch his way to a better result today in P2. And Mush O'Keefe making an all PSV Racing colour scheme and team front row of our race. So hopefully we are ready to get underway then for this tremendous 34 lap race around Fuji. Significantly shorter distance actually than the S1 drivers managed. That was I want to say that was 50 laps. So yeah, very different strategic options available to our drivers, but similar settings and fuel and tyre usage. Of course, fuel refilling is banned for this 2026 season. Let's get ourselves underway with the PSV Racing drivers trying to navigate essentially what would be a very difficult turn 1 next to each other. The inside line is actually for the even-numbered drivers on the way down into Daiichi, the first corner. So let's get underway then. The front row, PSV Racing with Jailhouse Chris and Sir Grinch set up on the second row of the grid. It's drop the clutch and go, go, go. Looking like reasonable start from the majority of our drivers out there. Nintendo's struggling with the car away, but it looks like Thump already up into P1 as the drivers were hoping that we're not going to see anyone go bowling into turn 1. Looks like all is a-okay with this, as looks like then Biggerwood, John P and Nintendo fairly equal on the way through the first corner in towards turn 3. Coca-Cola, and it is Thump ahead of Mush O'Keefe, both on the medium tyres, so no particular difference between the two of them. Scavvy in third. Mo and Jailhouse Chris are going side by side down towards turn 6 hairpin, and that looks like Mo round the outside. If he can hang on to this one, which he doesn't manage to do, he slots back in behind Jailhouse Chris. YenkTheTank starting reasonably well there, up from 8th into 6th place as well, down into Dunlop. We will see overtakes into this corner, I'm fairly certain. There is Nigel Mansnail alongside with SenorDude, who couldn't quite find his way up in the into the next position out there. But out front we have Thump and Mushokif getting away here slightly from Scavvy, who's keeping Mushokif very much honest, and then Jailhouse Chris and Mo behind as they continue then onto the start-finish straight for the first time at full speed, and we will get a picture of just how much overtake usage the drivers dare use. Here comes Scavvy to go side by side with Mushokif, who's taking it fairly quite a bit more gently, but following through is trying to be Jailhouse Chris, trying to get 2 for 1 here down into Daiichi. Scavvy running wide, but hanging on then to the traction zone on the exit, but we were trying to get tucked back in, and it was Jailhouse Chris making up 2 positions. Scavvy then trying to go for a late move down into turn 3. Coca-Cola couldn't quite make the move stick. YenkTheTank looking a little bit wild on the outside of the turn as Mo goes side by side, and it's Mo going up to P4. That was Mushokif dropping down 2 positions, team captain here for PSV Racing, of course. Mushokif, I want to say, I mean, I haven't actually had that confirmed, I'm guessing. Thump, though, out in front at this early stage of the race as the drivers go through Dunlop corner. And Sir Grinch in P7 for Cyan Racing, SenorDude in 8th, and Nigel Mansnail. There is Bigger Wood in 10th in the Cyan Racing colour scheme that I actually prefer. Is that okay to say? Hector Motorsports 11th and 12th with Joe and John, and then Nintendo at the back for Igala currently, but everybody away relatively safely, relatively well in a cluster of cars. Then we're going to go down this start-finish straight once again at full power here. Thump ahead of Jailhouse Chris. Scavvy looking for an opportunity. Mo is mashing that boost button just to stay with the cars in front. Doesn't look like we've got anybody really threatening. Possibly Mo threatening for P3 here as Scavvy takes the middle of the road. Doesn't want to overcommit to the inside. And is able to slot through again. It would surprise me if Mo can get a switchback working there without use of too much boost. Scavvy allowing, I'm guessing, their Jailhouse Chris to get away ever so slightly. Mo using the boost in that first sector gets a purple first sector, and Mushokif in P5 running right round the outside high line through the 100R corner before heading into the hairpin once again. And Mushokif then in P5. YenkTheTank's looking to make up places now, and Yenk, very popular driver, great streamer as well, so check out YenkTheTank's channel, as well as PSV Racing, of course, is down in towards Dunlop. Yenk going fully alongside. That looked like a very handy manoeuvre from Yenk. We've also got manoeuvres coming from Mo side by side. I think that's probably worth another look then. Let's look at this from the perspective, shall we, of one of the drivers behind. I'm going to get that better organised because that was a mess. Here we go. This is Yenk going through the hairpin of turn 6. Keep your eye on the Rosa Racing car in front. Must be using some boost unless Scavvy braked incredibly early. This is the perspective of YenkTheTank. Down through the instant. Scavvy running a little bit wide. YenkTheTank making use of every inch of the racetrack and maybe a couple more through the apex of Dunlop, and then they will go side by side and continue through the switchback section of turn 13, 14 into next corner, turn 15 now. Very, very tricky corner there. Multiple lines available, but very difficult to grip to get the car gripping in. YenkTheTank up to 4th, overtaking Scavvy as well through that tricky section. Could be that Yenk's got a little bit more downforce. Could be he used a bit of boost on the way through there. But Scavvy and Mushokif definitely the biggest losers through those first 3 racing laps as we continue then in this great second round of the championship. YenkTheTank hungry for more against Mo here. Mo deciding not to use a lot of boost down that straight away. YenkTheTank round the outside. Mo cuts back through towards the traction zone on the exit of turn 1 Daiichi and into turn 2, and they're heading in towards Coca-Cola once again, and it's YenkTheTank. Use of that boost is very important to get that purple first sector. Meanwhile, Thump is gapping the field at this early stage. We have, I think, had a pit stop way back there, and that looks like Nigel Mansnail, who switched onto the medium tyres, and I wonder if that was some damage being repaired. John P seems to be having a very, very difficult time out at the first part of the race. Hopefully the race will come to him later on. Thump out on the medium tyres. Most of the early runners out here at the front of the grid are on those medium tyres, as we look to see. Just a change of tyre compound is the requirement, of course, for everybody, as Monsieur Keep P7 turning the front row and pole position, unfortunately, down to P7. Oh, well, certainly the front row. I can't remember exactly whether he got the pole. I think he was on pole and Thump was in second place. So he'll be hungry for a much better result out of this one. Looks like the hard tyres not in use at the moment. Thump ahead of Jailhouse Chris. Then we've got a good train of runners. Mo in P3. YenkTheTank for now at least in P4. Still using that boost, Yenk. And getting the using the boost to get fully an entire car length ahead before they get into the meat of turn 1, and Yenk up to P3. Then Mo left to scratch his head and wonder, but YenkTheTank spending that boost very early doors here. He'll try and extend the gap and then save a little bit of boost and fuel, I would imagine. But Yenk in third on the pursuit of Jailhouse Chris. Yenk taking the view that it's better to get track position at this early stage, get some clean air on the front wing, not be distracted by drivers around, and then have to deal with the consequences of a lack of boost and fuel later on, perhaps. The drivers will be having to conserve a little bit of fuel. We did see in the S1 race that the drivers were struggling a little bit a couple drivers were definitely struggling to make the end of the race. Beautiful off-throttle rattle of these SF23s. Well, beautiful to some listeners anyway, as Yenk is off in pursuit of Jailhouse Chris there, the Team Mega driver in P2. Jailhouse Chris having a penalty to pay as well. Will he decide to go into the pit lane during that penalty run? That is a legitimate tactic, but half second off throttle equals a significant drop in top speed all the way down this incredibly long start-finish straight. But actually, it looks like Jailhouse Chris is fighting back. I'm sure using some boost there to get through, as Mo is on the inside line. Scavvy recovering well at this stage in P5. SenorDude in 6th. Monsieur Keith has dropped down behind SenorDude now, down to P7. And a shout out to SenorDude for being the driver on my friend list, at least, to share the video, and then I can find that more easily. As Sir Grinch going for a move down into Daiichi behind Nigel Mansell. These drivers now, Sir Grinch has elected for those hard tyres, in fact. Nigel Mansell on the softs. So right around the outside, beautiful overtake from Nigel. Definitely reminiscent of his namesake there, around the outside after yielding position into turn 1. Came on the fight back, but he does have a big tyre grip offset at the moment, but of course he's going to pay for that later in terms of tyre longevity. It's lap 6. Thump is in the lead of this race by clear 3 or 4 seconds at this point from the following pack. YenkTheTank going wide, opening the door potentially to Mo to have a look through here. Mo is using the boost now. So is Yenk, because he was slightly offline through the corner. Scavvy's picking up a double slipstream, but will perhaps sit back here and wait to see if there is drama on the way down into turn 1 between the guys fighting in front of him. Mo to the inside. Yenk focusing on holding firm on the outside line. Doesn't go for the switchback. Mo with a nice clean overtake. And then it's Yenk who is left hung out to dry pretty much on the outside of the circuit. Yenk is then defending hard into turn 3, Coca-Cola, and there is Mo in P3. It's great to see these drivers running so close and with very, very little in the way of contact as well. At this point, that big tank slapper there from YenkTheTank, who's desperately trying to hang on to the back end of his SF23. Very, very difficult, these S2 machines to drive, especially slightly offline. Scavvy going for a late move down the inside, but running himself wide slightly there through that sequence. Let's have another look at this from his point of view. Yenk braking earlier without the boost, and then unfortunately we were invited to go for a dive bomb. Unfortunately, though, it didn't quite work out for Scavvy that time out. But I'm sure he'll give it another go very soon. SenorDude in 6th. Mr. Keith following SenorDude. Perhaps not quite so happy on the medium tyres at the moment, Keith, but maybe he's playing the big brain strategy here and looking after his fuel for a more sprinting run later on when he does get to use the soft tyres, I'm sure. Jogon Sim, fantastic positioning at the moment, bringing his car for Hector Motorsports up to P8, and this is looking very promising for Joe at the moment from a relatively humble starting grid position. For him, Mr. O'Keefe using that boost. You can see SenorDude defending hard against the pit wall. Keith on the outside. It's difficult to make this outside line run and work. It's also difficult to make the slipstream, the switchback move work as well here. It's a funny character of that turn 1. Biggerwood in 9th, Nintendo in 10th, Nigel in P11, and he's put a huge gap on Sir Grinch there since we last saw that overtake. John P at the back of the grid at the moment with certainly some problems at the start of the race. Thump's lead is being eaten away, I think, very slightly now by Jailhouse Chris, who is hard on the chase, which is great to see. Mo following Jailhouse Chris nicely as the grid is staying close together here. This top 8 inclusive, I would say. Very much going through the snaky final sector of this Mount Fuji circuit, all in a line. It's lap 8 of 34. Thump, Jailhouse Chris and Mo. Remember, all these drivers at the front of the field on a very similar strategy, at least starting on the medium tyres there as Jogon Sim makes his way through this run. Biggerwood still in 9th with Nintendo chasing him down now and actually eating away at Biggerwood's 9th place gap. Nigel Mansnail with the fastest lap of the race so far on those brand new softs, a 26.0. It doesn't count for a great deal because obviously we've got the boost in operation. There's no points for fastest lap here. And there is Mo, who has taken 2nd position from Thump, and that was just on boost alone, I think, through here. There is Jailhouse Chris not using the boost, has not used hardly any in comparison to Mo, who is halfway through his boost allowance. No recovery, no ERS recovery or kinetic or heat recovery in these SF23s. It is a finite battery resource that does not recharge. And Mo in P2, it works a little bit like a NOS tank, the boost here on the SF23s. And then we've also got some movement going on. Scavvy having to defend now from SenorDude. So Mo in 2nd place now ahead of Jailhouse Chris in the Team Mega. We've got, in terms of teams, it's fantastic to see. We did try and balance our teams out in terms of ability. It looked dominant in qualifying for PSV, but we have PSV ahead of Rosa Racing, ahead of Mega and Igala and Brokaga in the top 5. So fantastic to have everybody. And there's Hector Motorsports also in P8 as well with Jogon Sim. Lap 9 of the 34 as they run through this low grip, twisty and technical final sector here. Really hard to see your way clear around this racetrack. If we sit, I was going to sit on the driver POV, but this is perhaps the closest in terms of motion that you get on the VR portion. SenorDude just stabbing that boost a little bit. Got the red lights on the tail of the car in front. That's Scavvy, SenorDude. You can see the PSV Racing Mr. O'Keefe in his mirrors as well, and he's really using quite a lot of boost here, SenorDude, to stay with the cars in front. He does want to use that slipstream if at all possible next time round. So yeah, looking really good. And then behind him you can see Mr. O'Keefe over the Mega Racing rear wing, and in the slightly more distant background, Jogon Sim in P8. So drivers, it looks like they're working towards trying for a one-stop race here. We do have, I think it's Nigel who went onto the soft tyres, who will commit to a 2-stopper, I believe. Certainly won't get those soft tyres through to the end of the race. Biggerwood in 9th place has Nintendo chasing him down at this stage, approaching the 1/3 distance, of course. Personal best all of a sudden for Nintendo. and trying to pace his use of that boost as well. Using the boost out of Dunlop, which is an unusual place for me. The cars are typically very, very grip limited through here. The low speed section means that there's very little downforce on the rear wheels, and obviously you've got some fairly slow corners as well, so very, very difficult to manage the grip coming out of these corners. We haven't seen anybody spinning off particularly at the moment. We've seen a couple of late braking maneuvers. We've just seen Mo with struggling through turn 2 in the traction zone out of the slow turn 1. Jailhouse Chris in 3rd, Yenk in 4th. Yenk now with the fastest first sector, usually down to boost usage at this point, as we've got SenorDude, MoGaffar, and actually Jogon Sim chasing down MoGaffar right now, and looking like the man most likely to make an overtake pretty soon. Joe's fastest lap was lap 6, and since then it's been a slower run, as the rather than the fuel wearing off and getting quicker, it is the tyres dropping off their current ideal run. Into Dunlop we go, and the top 8 still separated by probably only about 10 seconds, I would estimate. Difficult for me to say exactly at this stage. Behind them, with a small gap, we've got Biggerwood and Nintendo. Nigel Mansnail in P11. Then the 2 cars who've had the most trouble at this portion of the race. You've got Sir Grinch, who's trying to get home, I think, on the hard tyres here, managing the fuel usage and the tyre wear throughout, but ultimately he is going to be significantly slower on these hard tyres. It does appear like the hard tyres are not a particularly valid choice, but what can you do if you want to save that pit stop and you've got to make an unscheduled early pit stop? Mo's gone into the lead of the race. Let's go back here. This is Mo using that boost again, I think, or is it more to do with Thump running out of braking performance through turn 1? It was a little bit of that, a little bit of the other. There goes Jailhouse Chris, hanging on to 3rd at the moment, but Yenk is challenging him very hard as well. They're both using the boost quite considerably. Thump, though, a small mistake, I think, paired with Mo using that boost, means that Thump, for the first time in the race on lap 12, has lost the lead. Perhaps he feels, though, that it's better to follow at this stage and utilise the slipstream to save some fuel as well. We will wait and see exactly how this works out. But our first different leader on lap 12 of the 34 is Yenk through Dunlop, getting very close to the back of Jailhouse Chris. Once again, looking very likely that he's going to be trying to make a manoeuvre pretty soon. He doesn't want to see Mo get too far ahead at this stage of the race, I would imagine. So we will wait to see how that works out. Mo not picking up exactly what he wanted from round 1, I would say. But YenkTheTank in P3 now, and using that boost to really good effect. Let's wait to see, can he get past? Oh, that was a very violent swing to the outside there from Chris, as SenorDude continues to try and hold off Scabby. Put him to the outside there in the positioning. Keith still just ahead of Jogon Sim as well. We've got battles throughout this top 8, but I do think that Joe and Keith are possibly slowing each other down slightly here now. The gap has opened out between the top 6 and 7th and 8th positions. Thump re-leads the race. Mo, I believe, has now pitted. No, Mo has picked up damage. Let's go see what happened to Mo there from the lead of the race. Wow, big moment from Mo. This is really important for our race. Through the final corner. Oh, a big throttle spike there for him. And then I'm assuming it's about to get a whole lot worse. Yeah, damaging the front. I don't think the pit window is open for the soft tyres, for these soft tyres to run to the end, but unfortunately couldn't get the spin turn. I think he was trying to be as fair as possible to the drivers behind him at the time, from 1st through 7th, but unfortunately, the more obvious run was a spin turn to the right, but he tried to spin turn it to the left and just ran out of turning circles. So Thump ahead of Jailhouse Chris, and now YenkTheTank, who once again is the fastest driver through Sector 1. But Thump getting his lead back. He made a mistake, and then I think Mo made an even bigger one coming out of that final corner. Thump's mistake was just a little bit late, slight miscalculation on the brakes into turn 1, allowing Mo through. But yeah, end of lap 12 was the undoing of Mo's bid for the lead of the race. What can Mo do now? Because we do know that Mo had used quite a bit of boost. Yeah, he's down to 1/3 of his boost, and now he's going to be finding this car really problematic. Look at the amount of camber on the rear of the car there. We saw that in S1. Some of the drivers were using noticeably more aggressive tilt at the top of the tyre. Reference the bottom of the tyre. It might just be a graphic quirk here, but some of these cars do definitely look like, particularly Yenk there as well, with those tyres sort of leaning in towards the car at the top of the tyre. So yeah, I wonder if that is something that different cars, different teams and their setup are opting for there. Jailhouse Chris second, Yenk in third, Scavvy followed by Mushokif, and then we will see Joe in seventh. We've got a car pitting behind Mo here. Mo has decided not to pit. Nigel's come in off his soft tyres. He's used them up despite already stopping once. He's used those up before drivers around him. There is Sir Grinch picking up a position thanks to that pit stop of Nigel. Biggerwood in 12th. Hasn't been enjoying today, I think, at this point. And John P likewise at the back of the grid so far. Lap 14 of the 34. Thump leads Chris, leads YenkTheTank, and we wait to see how the pit stops are going to be working out here. I think that the soft tyres will run around, I want to say around 9 to 10 laps possibly. So it's a question of whether drivers can hang on to the mediums through to lap 24-5, something like that, or whether they prefer to switch to the hards or run a second set of mediums and use the softs later, or maybe just use 2 sets of softs. We shall see in the fullness of time. Bit of boost for Jailhouse Chris, trying to stay away from Yenk, who has about 27% of his boost remaining to him for what is more than half the distance of the race. A big delta there for him to manage later on, but Yenk is looking good at this stage for a good result later on. Another huge first sector for Yenk, using his boost at the end of the straightaway, I think. And we'll see if we can reel in Jailhouse Chris, but it looks like Thump possibly having a bit of a slow one there on the previous lap. Let's compare lap times. 27.7 for Yenk, 28.1 for Jailhouse Chris, and 28.1 for Thump. So Yenk the fastest of the top 3 on the previous lap. The wind not too strong. I don't know if it's gusting particularly, but it is a chilly day in Fuji. We try and match real life weather conditions at the time of racing, so the drivers have a certain amount of predictability in terms of their training, which obviously gets more accurate the closer we get to the race. And there's Jailhouse Chris making exactly the same error we saw from Mo, but actually going straight into the barrier. Lap 15, we're not at halfway point yet. Jailhouse Chris can see the damage on his car, and he's going to make the decision to go straight in towards the pit lane. We did see in S1 that it's possible to make a more aggressive entry into that pit lane. If you go back and watch Vader's pit stop on the way through there, causing absolute consternation in our live crowd, because our live audience, because they could not figure out how he managed to avoid a penalty going in at that point. Thump with his Porsche engine in P1 ahead of YenkTheTank. So Jailhouse Chris, I think what we're seeing here is those rear tyres dropping off slightly, causing some unpredictability in terms of their traction grip. Scavvy's in third. SenorDude now appears to be on the ascendancy. But Scavy has been protecting these tyres, and I think at this stage Scavy's not, well, I was going to say not going to put up too much of a fight. He's fighting very hard indeed, the 27 there. Nice defensive work from Scavy in the end, but he has been able to float around on these tyres a lot softer than the car that is challenging him at the moment. He'll keep making SenorDude use some of that rubber and then have to stop a little bit earlier. You can see in the tyre comparison there, quite a bit better from SenorDude, from Scavy compared with SenorDude. We'll go and have a look at the tyre decision of Jailhouse Chris momentarily. I think, well, I wonder if it will have been a set of hards, but here comes SenorDude on the attack, down the inside line, using the boost again, and not overutilizing that boost. SenorDude has not been using a great deal of the boost up to this point, but he does use a little bit there just to stop Scavy coming back at him into Coca-Cola turn 3. There is Mr. Keefe heading through that same corner. Joe Gonsim in 6th. This is looking very, very good from Joe, qualifying near the back, but running this high. Here is Mo fighting Nintendo now. Mo on, well, with damage, hasn't decided to pit at this stage of the race. Excuse me. But Nintendo in P8 has put in some great running so far. A fully repaired Jailhouse Chris. This will be a really interesting comparison. Then I do think that the accident affected Mo. It was a longer period stationary. So his accident lap will have affected him more, but this will be a direct comparison. Is it better to bail into the pits, get fast tyres on, repair the car, or stay out for plan A? So his slowest lap, Mo, was a 43.0, and if I go back to Jailhouse Chris, his last lap, a 45.2, which included going into the pit lane. It's really hard, actually, to make a comparison, unfortunately, between Chris. But he decided that his slow lap was the one to go into the pit, and now it looks like Mo is going in as well. So Mo into the pits on lap 17. That's, again, a big ask for one set of soft tyres to get you to the end of the race. We'll see what the rest of the drivers elect to do here on plan A. Nigel Mansell is on his third set of tyres now, I must say. John at the back of the grid in P12, but Biggerwood has pitted for a new set of medium tyres on that lap as well. So Thump leads our race ahead of now Yenk and SenorDude as the drivers drop off one by one, making mistakes out of the final Panasonic corner. And we might get a good camera angle, and you can see exactly why it's called Panasonic on the way through here. So let's wait and see. You need an outside view of this final corner in order to see that. Let's have a look. Are we going to get it? We are not this time. So we'll have to wait and try and catch that later on. Keep your eye on that final corner when we get the right camera angle. Here is Yenk though. Another really impressive run. He finished P2 in race 1. He's currently second right now. Thump finished 10th in race 1. Jailhouse Chris winning ahead of Hobbit. But it's good to see how competitive the drivers are and how different their results may well be in round 2 of the championship. Contrast that perhaps with the S1 division, which has been a slightly different situation. Lap 19 of the 34. We are well into now the second half of the race, and somehow or other, Scavy, I told you he was protecting those tyres. Scavy through Sector 1 is the fastest driver so far. Given the fact that Nigel Mansell set his fastest lap on new soft tyres, 25.7, Scavy through Sector 1, now starting to spend some of that boost he has reserved, and those tyres he's reserved so well. So 27.6, 27.9, the last 2 laps from Scavy. SenorDude slightly faster on that previous lap, in fact. So let's see if Scavy can make use of these tyres now in this sector of the racetrack. And the foothills of Mount Fuji, still significantly above sea level. There you can see the Panasonic paint on the corner, and the big billboards on the way through as well. Mr. Keefe, P5, has struggled, I think, here to translate his qualifying pace into race pace. It's a whole different ball game, running a long distance race like this one. Jogon Sim in 6th, Jailhouse Chris in P7 right now. Of course, Chris having switched onto the soft tyres on what I fully expect to be a 2-stop race at this point. His fastest lap, a 26.1. We've got Nintendo in 8th, still with Sir Grinch in 9th position. He switched onto the hard tyres early doors, so he has made his required compound shift, as Nigel Mansnail is in 10th. We have Mo on a new set of soft tyres and a fully repaired car now, down in P11, and that is a really tough thing to see Mo down for Rosa Racing in P11 at this stage. And I can't quite see his gap to the outright race leader on this way of reviewing the race. John in 12th, Biggerwood in 13th. John has pitted, Biggerwood has not, and I think is within a pit stop distance. And then we go back to the lead of the race on lap 20 of the 34. Thump still hanging on at the moment, as they're trying to hang on to the tyre life here and not lose too much in the way of lap time. Will anybody in this top 4 decide to pit for an early pit stop and blink essentially earlier? And we are probably 3 laps away from the soft tyre window, bearing in mind that the second half of the second stint of the race will be on much lighter race car with less fuel on board. So we'll see if that translates to a longer tyre stint there than the drivers who started on the softs. Here we go, Scabby's storming through Coca-Cola turn 3 in hot pursuit of SenorDude right now. YenkTheTank looking very good as well, so it'd be great to see the championship really close in after just 2 rounds. Remember, we've got 12 rounds for you this season in each of our divisions, and we will stay in Japan for the 3rd round. We're going to Tokyo Expressway around the great capital city of Japan, the south counterclockwise. I want to say that's true, but we did get some correction earlier in the season. Then we go to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve around 4 on the 19th of April. Then Barcelona for the Catalunya Grand Prix layout without the chicane on round 5. Nürburgring Grand Prix for round 6. Then Red Bull Ring for round 7. Circuit Spa-Francorchamps in round 8 in June, followed by Monza and Watkins Glen in August. We then head over to South America for the Brazilian race at Interlagos on round 11 in September, finishing on 20th of September at Yas Marina. So a calendar that takes in the newest tracks here in Gran Turismo as well. Here is YenkTheTank, lap 22 of the 34. Thump with, I would say, about a 4-second comfort gap at this stage, but we are getting very close to those pit stops for the top group. Keith is in, I would count in that run with the strategy. Same with Jogon Sim, and Joe looking like he is the driver with the least grip on his front left tyre at this stage of that front group. Jailhouse Chris in 7th. Has pitted, decided on a 2-stopper very, very early. A question for him, it will be, on these softs, can he save the pit stop stationary time that the other drivers are themselves trying to, can he recover that pit stop stationary time in the on those soft tyres? Is he significantly quicker? He's just set a 26.1, which is very close to his absolute personal best, while the drivers are running 1:27.6. Into the pits then comes Yenk and SenorDude on lap 22 of 34. Are they hoping to get a 12-lap stint out of the soft tyres? Saving at least 1 lap relative to those two will be Scavy, Mushakif, and our race leader Thump. And now it is the chess game. And who has picked the best strategy? Well, Jailhouse Chris stays out then, and YenkTheTank and SenorDude fall in behind Chris on brand new soft tyres with the best, stickiest grip that they are going to enjoy on those tyres in a couple of corners' time once they've got them up to temperature. So this is going to be very, very interesting. Do they decide to work together and play the Slipstream game for the greater good, or will they be will they be your typical racing driver and just never want to yield a position? We will wait and see between Yenk and SenorDude here, and of course the option then for Scavvy, MoGaffar and Thump is open to them to defend the undercut from Yenk and SenorDude, or to maintain that tyre difference and extend for an extra lap. Here is MoGaffar in third, Scavvy in second, and here comes Thump committing to the pit stop at the end of lap 23. It's a long old stint on those tyres. Likewise, Scavvy in. MoGaffar is on the right hand side of the racetrack, and he decides to come in as well. So defending the undercut for race position is the preference here. Jailhouse Chris will take, I think, the lead of this race. Let's wait and see as he comes down the pit lane, down at the main straight, as the drivers in the pits currently are on their way out. He is well ahead. YenkTheTank also getting the undercut, and here is Thump trying to go. So it's a significant advantage there at this stage. YenkTheTank getting ahead, and SenorDude almost getting ahead of Thump. Thump now panic stations for a second there as he's side by side with SenorDude, and now he wants to recover his race. He won't necessarily know that Jailhouse Chris can't make the end of this race, because Jailhouse Chris was several places behind him, unless the PSV racing engineer has been keeping him very, very well informed of what Chris is up to. He may start to think he needs to overcome Jailhouse Chris as well as YenkTheTank, and that's neither of those two options is going to be particularly welcoming to Thump in his in the helmet at the moment. 10 to go. Plus the lap that they are on at this current time. Jailhouse Chris is ahead in P1, but I will be absolutely blown away if he can get these soft tyres to a finish with this situation. So he's now looking to try and cut his losses as soon as possible. Use every bit of the tyre life, and as soon as his times start to drop to an unexplained degree, he then needs to pit and get newer softs on and be back in the hunt here. Thump and SenorDude are fighting down the start-finish straight. SenorDude getting ahead of Thump. SenorDude, is this down to the fact that he saved more boost? It is down to the fact that he saved more boost. You can see visually that SenorDude will be able to see the red light glowing on the engine air scoop there at the top of the car. And that will tell SenorDude that Thump is in the final 10% of his boost allowance. And that will really help SenorDude to think, well, do you know what? I've overcome the previous leader of the race here on that nice overtake down the start-finish straight. I'm on the same tyres. I've got maybe one more lap of tyre wear on my soft tyres. And I know for a fact that he's below 10% on his boost. So I can spend some boost in defence of this P3. And this is really holding up Thump now. Looks like going that little bit longer on the mediums has cost him considerably a lot more time, while the drivers following him, essentially having pitted earlier, are able to utilise those tyres. Here comes Chris then into the pit lane. YenkTheTank is your new leader of the race, and in the fantastic position now, albeit with a little bit less fuel on board. In fact, it might be the final 20% that the light is on by the look of YenkTheTank's allowance. I hope our watching audience can inform me there. Remember, if you want to communicate with me, Webbo, after the race, while you watch the race on demand, you need to tag me in the comments now that the races are going out on SVR's channel this season. You need to actually tag me at WebboRed5 if you want me to see the comments that you make throughout the course of the watching week, in preparation, of course, for forthcoming round 2 of the GT3 car divisions, G1 and G2. Thump is chasing down SenorDude, who is just a chill guy, pretty much, here, knowing the situation with his boost that he has remaining. Thump does not know, because he can't see that green or red light at this stage, unless his engineer is able to tell him. I don't actually know whether the Hector app for engineers is able to track the amount of boost remaining to the cars. We shall see, as Scavvy now is looking to utilise that boost that he saved relative to Thump as well. Thump looking like he can't really extract as much performance out of these soft tyres. Side by side they go. Jailhouse Chris came out of the pits, by the way, in P6, and he has a significant amount of this racetrack left to go. I'm going to watch these two on the way into turn one, and then I did see a little bit of action happening behind. There's a yellow flag in front. There's a yellow flag in front. Who has caused that yellow flag? I can't see any of the leaders involved. Down into turn 1 and 2 go Thump and Scavvy side by side. Thump just hanging on ahead. And then I want to just go back and see what was going on back here. Well, this is a double overtake potentially, as Jailhouse Chris is overcoming the drivers either side of him. Here we go. Monsieur Keefe down in P8, fighting with Joe Gonsim. We didn't see how they came out of the pits and pitted relative to each other, but that means that Jailhouse Chris is now in 5th position. This is on board with Keefe, who is fighting hard with Joe. Great to see. Plenty of action in the midfield at the moment. Chris back to P5. Sir Grinch, remember, on the hard tyres, and these drivers around him are fighting on the softs. Now, Sir Grinch's tyres will be slower at this point, but maybe at the end of the race, they will be worse. Why have we got blinkers on for Joe there on the rear of the car? I assume he's hit the blinkers when he was on his way into the pit lane. There's a gulf between the top 8 and the rest of the drivers at this stage. But Joe fighting hard. YenkTheTank still leads ahead of SenorDude and Thump. Thump still hanging on ahead of Scavvy. But Thump will be feeling like he's pretty much owed this win today after a fantastic first stint. But the strategy not quite with Thump. Maybe the tyres will come good to him at the end of the race. Is this actually Joe heading into the pit lane? It's not. Joe moving aside there. I think he had a penalty to pay. So that ends Joe and Keefe's battle at the moment. But Scavvy and Thump are still fighting on. Scavvy with the fastest first sector of the race so far there on lap 28 on these new tyres. Mo has the ultimate fastest lap at the moment. Just 1/10 faster than we saw Chris go earlier on, a 1:25.6. What news of Mo? Well, he is still a long way back there in P11 on some relatively old soft tyres. So Chris cut his losses early on the tyres. Mo might be trying to hang on to these tyres to the end of the race, stopping a little bit ahead of Chris, but his last lap at 29.2. That is not going to be enough to save a pit stop, I don't think, overall. Biggerwood in 12th. John P back at the rear of the grid now that the pit stops have equalised. It looks like John P's hit something and has damaged the front of the car as well. YenkTheTank loving life out there in front at the moment on lap 28 of the 34. SenorDude in 2nd, Thump in 3rd and Scavvy in 4th will really give us a show-stopping end to this race. We're going to start to be thinking about fuel usage now, and who has left enough in the tank. Looks like fairly equal between the 2nd, 3rd, 4th drivers. Jailhouse Chris in that 5th place, and then the drivers behind are still fighting. Keefe has managed to get by Grinch. Remember, Grinch on the hard tyres, so falling back down again, trying to save a pit stop, but his lap times in the 27s and 28s, when most other drivers are circulating in the 26s on the soft tyres. So obviously the longer that runs, the worse the worse an experience this will be for Sir Grinch. Joe Gonsim in P8, I think in 8th place after the qualifying positioning of Joe Gonsim might well be quite welcome to the Hector Motorsports crew, but yeah, it's a shame that one of our title sponsored teams are not able to quite live with the pace of the front runners at this stage. Nigel Mansell in P9. I don't think Hector Motorsports get any additional telemetry feed from from the rest of the grid. It is a title sponsorship only. It's not a technology partnership, I believe. Anyway, Nigel Mansell there, I was just mentioning, in P9 at this stage of the race. He finished 4th in round 1, and it is a bit of a double-edged sword, finishing the first round of the championship really well. It does then set the expectation level for the rest of the championship for you a little bit higher perhaps than you might want. John P looks to have been lapped at this stage as the top 4 continue through. We do have some close running. I'm just going to head back here to see. That is Michelle Keefe in the extreme foreground, but it's Jogon Sim who's just got by Sir Grinch. Again, big tyre delta between these two, but I don't think this was down to tyres. I think that Joe got the job done using the boost there. Oh, a little stab in the rear from Sir Grinch, who was faster at the apex than he was expecting Joe to be, but no harm particularly. Yeah, no harm on either of the cars. It does look like the hard tyres will be good at the end of the race versus the softs, but I think that the damage is to the race pace is going to be too great for those hard tyres to really be a valid strategy. Lap 30 of the 34. Yenk the Tank still with a comfortable, I want to say, 2.5 second gap to SenorDude in second, Thump in third, Scavvy in fourth right now. All different manufacturers. At the moment, the biggest team payday is going to be with Team Mega, SenorDude and Jailhouse Chris here in 5th. Jailhouse Chris setting a 26.5 and a 26.9 the last 2 laps. That's a lot faster than Scavvy. Well, no, it's not a lot faster than Scavvy. Excuse me, Scavvy. It's actually quite close. So I don't know that Chris is going to be able to recover this to get back onto the podium without there being some kind of accident or incident for the cars in front of him. Thump still in P3. Finishing 10th in the previous round, Thump will be pleased to be on the podium if this is how things work out for him, but I think disappointed in the moment, having led the first stint of the race quite comfortably. But I think it's probably fair to say Thump attacks each stint very hard at the start and extracts everything that the tyres will give him without leaving any performance out there for the latter part of the stint. I hope that's fair to say, Thump, because it was a tendency that I observed at the start of our joint season where we raced in the same division last season. That's why I'm kind of referencing it, because we were for a while there in similar positions in the championship, so I was often racing with Thump. I did feel that he tended to blow a lot of performance at the start of his stint and then be trying to catch up at the end. I don't know if that is going to remain true or something that he can work on, or it's just a deliberate choice, which would be perfectly valid choice to make. Yenk the Tank leading our race then for Igala Motorsports. This would represent a tremendous result for the newly branded former Buckstein team, and we're so grateful for Igala continuing their sponsorship of our race team here, and they were honoured with a beautiful new design on the car as well. I did wonder whether Buckstein liveries could be bettered from last season. They were the pick across all divisions, I felt, but this is a very, very nice looking one as well for Igala. SenorDude in the all-new Mega livery there. It is an improvement, I do think, on last year's Mega colour scheme. And we have Thump in that P3 in the very attractive, possibly neutral fan favourite livery, the gold and black of PSV Racing. Remember to check out the PSV Racing channel, won't you? As well as Yenk the Tanks and mine, if you haven't yet. Check those out. Do go ahead. It is Scavvy in that P4 for Brokaga, and from his point of view, well, through the halo you can't see anything. You can't see the drivers in front, but you'll be able to get a read on their relative positions through the turns. and this is on board with Scavvy. Starting to accept fate at this point that we won't get on the podium, perhaps. Obviously, someone could run out of fuel at the end of the race. It is possible. It looks like SenorDude isn't concerned with running out of fuel. Remember, one of the drivers who saved his boost so well. He's going for a really hot lap here. I don't know if that is going to mess with his fuel calculation to the end of the race. Hopefully he's got enough of a buffer here that he can allow for using the overtake. Obviously you then go faster, and then I think that means you use a little bit more fuel using the boost. I could be wrong because it is an electrical deployment. But yeah, the hope there would be that you don't hold on to a load of boost and then end up miscalculating your fuel because you're using above what the fuel allowance is predicting you would need towards the end of the race. I'm going to stay with this group here, the provisional podium positions, as we head in towards what will be the final lap of this second round race at Fuji. YenkTheTank leading ahead of SenorDude, Thump and Scavvy. And the only thing I think that's really going to cost these drivers a position now is going to be those fuel loads. I think Thump is on the smallest amount of fuel, fairly equal with Scavvy. Maybe even YenkTheTank, but he was further down the main straightaway here. Leaving a little bit of boost for himself on the final drag to the line there in case of any incidents or accidents on this final lap. But I think this might well be Yenk's first race win since we became the VR Sim Racing World Championship here at SVR. He'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going to go check out his no, he has got one win. My apologies, Yenk. He does have a win. I've just realised I might just have spoiled the result for myself there because I don't have a view. But I think that this will represent the first win for YenkTheTank here, and I think he'll be absolutely over the moon. Check out YenkTheTank's stream as well. All of our drivers are streaming to Twitch, so you can find all their details on the website svr-racing.com, and go back and watch their VODs through Twitch, and Yenk, you'll be able to get his actual reaction, I think, here. Hopefully he'll clip that for us as well. Here comes Yenk then out of Panasonic for the final time to take what I believe to be his first win. Yenk wins in Fuji for round 2 of the championship, just ahead of SenorDude and Thump, with Scavvy coming home in P4. Congratulations to them, a fabulous result in the end. Jailhouse Chris, one accident, an extra pit stop, but still home in 5th is a great recovery. Michelle Keefe for PSV Racing from the front row into 6th place, and Jogon Sim from near the back of the grid up to P7 could well be driver of the day for me. Then we've got Sir Grinch using the hard tyres to good effect in P8. Nintendo for Igala, his teammate wins the race, he comes home in P9, and a good payday for the Igala racing team. We've got Nigel Mansnell coming home with plenty of boost and fuel left on the car. Nigel in P10, and then we have Biggerwood, who will bring the car home in 11th ahead of the beleaguered Mo, who went for had to go in for a second set of soft tyres. This will be a huge blow for Mo after competing for the outright win. Biggerwood in 11th, just ahead then of Mo. John has finished the race already, but it's YenkTheTank who is Yenk, the winner today, ahead of SenorDude and Thump. So tremendous finish for the drivers. Congratulations to them, especially those who finished on the podium. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching today. Hit something positive on the video. Go visit our drivers and commentators channel if you can. But for now, from us here at SVR, from me, Webbo, thank you for watching. We will catch you on the next race day.